Do you think, Scott, that social media creates jackasses or does it expose jackasses?
I think more it enables them. I think that because I think in our society, if we look at the grand picture of things, and this has been talked about it quite a bit in a lot of places, but that if you can't see the person you are taking a shot at, if you can't see a person that you are affecting, then we're much easier to be flippant to them. We're much easier to be a jackass to them because we don't see the hurt you cause. You don't see that. And there's a couple great books on this. I like to find them so we can put them in the show notes. But there was one about, example of the schoolyard and children. And if you walk up to somebody and call them fat or call them ugly or call them this, you see them cry. And that'll have an impact to you. Maybe not in the moment, but then you'll realize you're like, I don't like hurting people like that. But online, we don't see that usually. We don't, and the typical thing I saw was a popular younger guy on Instagram and Twitter. His profile picture was a hashtag end bullying. He's holding a sign, and then a comment he made on Taylor Swift's photo called her the B word. And I'm just like, but we don't realize that we are all the jackasses. We are all the people contributing to this. And if we want to make this a better world, we got to look at our own contributions to it. And by the way, the whole thing starts, every section story is about us being a jackass in a situation, Allison and I, because you can't get up there in front of the pulpit and say, you're all jackasses. You need to be more like me. We're up there saying we're the worst. We're the worst. And this is how we're trying to get better. And that allows to bring an audience or a reader on your side, because we truly are the king and queen of jackassery to write a book like this.
It seems as though there are more people acting like jackasses, and social media could certainly have an impact of that. But as you look, are we becoming a more empathetic culture, or are we becoming more of a jackassery culture? And if it is the latter, what can we do about it?
Well, I think one of the things that social media has done, and I think social media is the great amplifier of things. I think they're the great amplifier of human nature, where I don't think there's more jackassery. I think we see it more. And because before online, right, what did we have? We had, we had blog posts, and we had maybe comments. Remember that as we all know, we're sitting here right now, right? The golden rule then was, and still is now, never read the comments. Why? Because they're full of jackassery. We just call them trolls. And so when you look at this side of this, I don't think we've changed as humans. I just think our accessibility to things is much more quicker, so it's much more knee-jerk. So even though we've always been thinking or saying these things, but it's just to our buddy or to a family member about something, now we can say it directly to them. So it's more pointed, I think, and more kind of real time, because you wouldn't make a blog post about just some just run-of-the-mill insult you're going to do, but so much easier to put out these little statements, and we think they don't have an effect, or nobody hears them, or there's no impact, or we just wanted to say it because we thought we'd be cool, we get a couple likes. So I think we're not as humans, we've changed, but the tool certainly has. Therefore, it's more out in the open. And I do think, though, it's also made us better and worse. I know it's a cop-out answer, but I've also never seen more help. I've never seen people helping each other more. I've never seen strangers helping each other more. And I know this, and I don't want to downplay what's happening in the world right now, and how that we're just like, oh, I don't want people to calm down. I don't want them to relax. And the Jackass Whisperer is not about being passive. It's about not letting the purveyors of pet peeves get to you, so you have the energy to fight the good fight. We control the noise. And I think if we take some ownership of that, but here's the thing. It took me a long time to realize I'm also causing that. Every comment I would make on somebody's post would either be directed back to me, like Jay would post, "Hey, look at this house." So we have the Commits and Convert retreat in Costa Rica, and my comment would be, "I went to Costa Rica. Here's what I think of it." Jay didn't ask what all of our thoughts were, didn't it? I just made it self, or I'd make it sarcastic. People don't realize that English is my second language, that sarcasm is my first. And I default to sarcasm in everything I do. And I realize that erodes things. There's erosion in relationships. There's erosion in that. So Jay knows that if he posts something about, one of the kids going off to school, and I wrote something sarcastic, that wears thin. And I've been watching what I say in the past 6 months and realizing my first instinct is sarcasm. My second instinct is self-serving. Go with the third, which is congrats. Which is, awesome, which is way to go. And I've taken those layers out and I've stopped contributing to that. And then it all looks different. And I realized I was being that jackass. And there's a self-actualization thing that takes place that's hard to do, especially for people like us who've been paid for our opinions and our thoughts. I get paid to yell at people what I think for an hour, man. Like, there's no more ego-driven thing than that. I have to realize do I want to be the jackass you want to see in the world?
Well, especially because you think about 4,500 quote unquote friends on a platform like Facebook. Only a small portion of those people really know you or have spent any meaningful time with you. So,
right.
Those who have had that pleasure, and I'm throwing out my air quotes there, Social Bros listeners, know that your default state is sarcasm and sort of angry, formerly young man. But those of you people who might have a quote unquote weaker tie with somebody like Scott might not realize that and might truly be offended, right? And it's just Scott doing Scott. But I think that's one of the dangers of social relationships where we use words like friends very, very casually, but
right.
there's a knowledge of somebody's true personality and their intent that I think sometimes get lost when you're writing one sentence at a time.
I do believe that there's a correlation between the trends in remote working and working more solo and not being able to see mano face to face with your colleagues and your managers creates an oversensitivity kind of in the space. I'm curious if you have any tips for a social media practitioner as they deal with a deluge of jackassery and what they have to do in community management and may or may not be working remotely. What do you tell them other than you need to be more empathetic and kind and try to not take everything personally? What would you tell them, Scott?
The hilarious thing is I'm being interviewed right now with the person behind Hug Your Haters right here, that's the advice I give people right there. Just read that because it's exactly that. It's the same. It's such a basic process to me that, and it actually was in action. I'll give you an exact thing with social media that happened when this book came out and using our own advice. So we did a couple kind of promos on the UnMarketing Facebook page, and we just wanted to give some books away to the professions that we thought would deal with the most daily jackassery. We did an informal poll, and two of the biggest groups came up were teachers and nurses. And so we did a post and said, look, if you're a nurse or if you know a nurse, put it on your Amazon wish list. Give us the link and we'll send you the book. No condition. You don't have to review it. You don't have to pay for shipping. You don't have to do anything. We just want to give it to you. And obviously people were very suspect of that because it doesn't happen, right? There's no conditions at all. You didn't have to be like the page. It doesn't matter. And so what happens was people started posting and we started jumping on there. One of the problems, have you ever done something like this, an Amazon type of giveaway? Everybody forgets to enable third-party shipping on the so you can't click it. So even though I put in all caps at the start, please follow these simple steps. Number 1, add it to your wish list. Number 2, click here, and I did a screenshot. Here's where you enable it, and then click 3, post your list. And 80% of them didn't do that, and that's okay. Whatever. I'm trying to give away a jackass book. I can't be a jackass about it. So I was spending most of the day. I was on the road somewhere, and I hopped in, and I did it when we went with the teachers. I found somebody else to do it, but I was doing it myself. And one of the things was I click, and then it's a big process too. You click, you add it to the shopping cart, you go through, and then you finally three clicks later, you can't see the address. You have to go back, remove it from your cart. Anyway, I was doing that all day, but we had sent out probably a couple dozen copies, but it's very work intensive. And then I left for the day, and then I went to a gig and a gig and a gig, and it was like 48 hours, but I got really busy, and I got a message from somebody privately, and she says, "I knew this was a fraud. What a scam." And of course, I don't, as Jay sure knows, I don't need a reason to go to battle. I'm like, oh, it's go time, right? And in my head, I'm like, what kind of scam could I possibly be running right now? The scam of not getting any of your info and sending you something for free? I'm almost like, I don't even know where to begin with this. But in my head, I went, stop. What was her intent? What is she going through right now? And in my head, I'm like, she does feel like it's a scam because she saw all the comments of everybody else getting their book in, because we'd always write, it's on the way and on the way. And she didn't hear back after that. She was left hanging. So instead of me saying, at least be happy we're even giving away free books, which was my default reaction, I said, I'm so sorry. Things got really busy. And our intent was to bring joy to nurses. And obviously we're being jackasses right now to you. And that's not what I wanted. You fixed the list. Thank you. And it's on the way. Her next response was, yeah, it's really hard to deal with when everybody else is getting their book and I'm not. And I'm like, breathe, breathe. And I said, again, apologies, right? We really wanted to intend to make your day better. Sorry again. And then she wrote back, it was ... She wrote back and she goes, I think I'm being the jackass right now. And I'm like, whoa! And I ran, and seriously, I'm not making this up. I ran upstairs to Allison and I said, look what just happened. And she's like, yeah, that's what we're talking about. And I'm like, no, but it works. And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, no, but it actually works. She's like, I know.
Yeah.
She's like, didn't you read the book?
Yeah, and that's where I found it. And that works so well. And like I said, you just may as well read Hug Your Haters and get this type of, it's always just putting yourself in that place though, right? It's always putting yourself in their spot. They feel wrong, they feel something's wrong, and they want to be heard. And those people, and exactly that same person turned into one of our biggest fans.